welcome to The Game Plan. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist here at VerifiedInvesting.com. PCE data just hit. Markets are moving. We've got big moves out of earnings from Microsoft and Alphabet. Lots of levels to discuss. We're going to get right into the mix. So let's get started here and go from there. All right, first and foremost, what we want to do is bring up the home page and go to the data points, right? So one of the things we do here, we have to go down and scope down and see what is moving today. And I want to show you guys briefly, we have our earnings calendar. And again, don't forget, this will be updated next week. But again, yesterday after market, we saw this chart or this earnings from Microsoft as well as Google, Intel, and Snapchat and Roku Western Digital. All right, so again, right into the mix. Now, we did get the PCE data out this morning, and just briefly to go over that data, and I'm not even going to let you guys look at it because honestly, it just basically came in generally in alignment with expectations. Maybe a couple things that were hotter, but yesterday the markets were anticipating that, and that's why we saw what we saw. Now, behind me, you're seeing the chart of Alphabet. Huge move to the upside. I mean, this is an incredible move. The earnings were good on Alphabet, but I think a couple things that really were the catalyst to this bigger move to the upside. Number one, they announced a dividend. So now all of a sudden this can be included in these dividend funds. It's almost like getting added to the S&P 500 where there's more funds that focus on dividend stocks only for retirees, etc. And now Google can be included in those. So it's increased demand. In addition, they announced a $70 billion buyback. That actually sounds like a lot, but when you're talking about a $2 trillion market cap company, it's not that big. We've seen bigger buybacks by other players. Either way, again, a dividend and a buyback is an additional bonus. You throw in the good earnings that they came out with, and it makes sense why the stock is trading up here. I will say this, though. I think the stock could be due for a pullback. I want to show you why. So if we flip to the daily chart, there was this large channel, right? So very, very clearly we can see a channel where price kept on going above and below, or basically to the high end and then the low end, and then the high end and the low end. Now, the level here is about 165 to 166. That's the high end. Right now, you're trading at around 174 to 175. I'm very curious today to watch, do we pull back to that 166, 165? And even though we're going to open above this range, do we see price pull back underneath? Now, maybe we don't, or at least not today. But again, I want to see, is this putting in a top on Google/Alphabet? My guess, it probably is at these valuation levels. Now, yesterday after hours, it did trade as high as 182. Got to respect that high. We could always retest it. But again, my factoring in is this longer-term channel has been so impressive. Usually what you see, and I want to show you this. This is very, very common. When you get a move above these upsloping channels, it's oftentimes like this, and then it falls right back in. Essentially what it is it's a bull trap. And a bull trap, again, people say, oh, it's a breakout, but ultimately price comes right back inside within a certain amount of time. Just something to keep in mind. So be very wary. In other words, how many times have I shown you guys not to buy and get sucked into the FOMO? There's going to be lots of FOMO out there on Google today, on Microsoft, on tech in general. Instead, step back and look at the chart and say, okay, well, what has the chart done? So it's been in this incredible uptrend. It's now going to be opening above. Does that make sense, or is that a little overdone? Maybe eventually it comes back in. For me, I'd be much more inclined to say, okay, if it's up here, right, let's say it's trading up here, if it comes back in maybe to the midpoint here or down here, this is where I buy. Now, again, you could say, well, what if that doesn't happen? Well, at some point it's going to happen, whether it's the stock market rolling over, whether Google has a bad quarter the next quarter. At some point, you'll get a pullback. It's much better, and this is something I've learned the hard way. When I chase, I lose. When I sit back and avoid chasing and the FOMO, I usually get a better entry within the next couple weeks or the next couple months. And I remember and I say, wow, thank goodness I didn't chase. All right, so that was one big chart that I wanted to go over. I do want to flip back to the 10-year yield here. Now, the 10-year yield is down a little bit today. Should anyone be surprised about this? All right, so we have another. And by the way, does this almost look identical to what I just showed you on Google? Like, honestly, I could have probably just been like, hey, guys, look over there, and everyone looks over there, and then switch this out. We'd all be like, oh, that's Google's. No, it's not Google's chart. It's actually the 10-year yield chart. Now, the 10-year yield, all right, check this out. That's still Google, actually. But there's the 10-year yield. See, I got you there. But in any case, look at that channel. Same exact channel, right, in general. Now, the key here is that look at this. We are right at the high end, and we also got another kiss yesterday. And what is the chart likely to do? So think about probabilities, right? What are your probabilities? The probabilities have shown us that every time we hit the upper range of this, right, you're getting some sort of pullback, pullback, pullback. So this is what I consider a double tap. Double taps are actually very bearish when it's in an upsloping channel at the upper line. Now, when it's at the bottom of the channel, it's very bullish. So what do I mean by that? Well, here was a single tap, and we went to the high end. Single tap, we went up, then we did a double tap, right? Double tap here to here, and then what happens? We go to the high end. Now, notice how this, and this is, by the way, this is getting into some nitty-gritty inside stuff, all right? This is like going beyond what I normally teach in here. But look at the trend line, right? So look at how the midpoint, see this, I don't know if you guys can see the dotted line of the middle of this channel, which is a parallel as well, right? Look at how the bounce, the double tap, went to this point, then it retraced, and then it got its mojo and really had a run, okay? So watch this now. Let's clear off these lines. So now let's look for a double tap. So number one, here's our first hit, and then look at the low. The low, we had a flush down right to the midpoint, just like over here, and then we pushed up. There's your double tap. My guess is, guys, and again, this is going counter trend. And by the way, you'll see me, like, I literally turned on CNBC yesterday, Bloomberg, everyone's like, yields are going higher, yields are going higher, it's all going higher. I'm like, I mean, yeah, you know, the news makes you think that, and then I always say, shut off that part of my brain that just goes by the narrative that's being spun, and look at the chart. And can the chart be wrong? Yeah, you know, 3 out of 10 times it could be, you know, in general, but I'm going to go with the probability side every time because that's what's going to keep me as a more sane, logical trader and have a better winning percentage. So the idea is here's your double tap, right? Double tap back to the midpoint, right up there, and there's your move. Double taps are something that I've learned more and more about, and they are significant. And again, usually that's where you get your bigger run. Greatest example of this here, midpoint, double tap, and then your bigger move to the upside. Okay, so again, the point here is that I like TLT. TLT, again, is a way to play a pullback in yields. And again, I am long TLT at this point, at this second. All right, going into the dollar chart, the dollar here continues, honestly, the dollar continues to look bullish to me. Today, the dollar's up a little bit on the day, not much. But again, it's more of the key here. And by the way, you could even make a case for a double tap here, right? Here, bounced, and then here. Doesn't have the same midpoint line, so I don't look at this the same way. But either way, then you got your big move up. And then what type of pattern formation is that? I'm still in the camp that we are headed up to this upper range here. All right, so again, I still have this target of 107, just above 107 on the US dollar. Once we get there, I actually think the dollar could start to pull back, but nonetheless, that is my short-term target. Now, again, could this be negated? Yes. If this pattern fails, if this bullish pattern here fails, right, then you have to respect the failure. Like if it went like this, that's no longer a bullish pattern, and then you actually look for a move back here and potentially lower. But as of now, you go with what the pattern is showing us. That's really all we have. Use the information within the chart. Don't try to get all fancy. Like a lot of us are like, well, if this does this and if this does this, then maybe this happens. That does us no good. Keep it simple. Right now, what's the chart showing us? That's the angle of probabilities. If that changes, then we say, okay, probabilities have shifted. So again, it's the simplicity of that. Be a robot, essentially. Be an algorithm, if you will. Okay, so that's that quick move there. Let's take a look at the S&P 500 here on the pre-market. So here we have the S&P, guys, and you can just see the massive move yesterday right after the market closed on the back of Google and Microsoft earnings. And then really what's happened? We've gone sideways the entire time. Here was where that PCE data came out. You got this one jump right into 509, and then we've got a pullback basically back to where we were trading before. And what this tells us again is that essentially yesterday the markets knew these numbers, right? So you know, that's one of the reasons why you're not seeing a massive stock market reaction here. You got a little blip because the algorithms do it real quick, and maybe some traders, some day traders react real quick and, you know, buy the market on this number. But for the most part, we came right back into where we were. The one thing I will show you here is that if we go to the daily chart of the SPY, where was the 509 level? I've had these lines on my chart. You guys that have watched the game plan, you can verify. Go to yesterday's, or you saw it yesterday. So we knew we had this as support, and I talked about a bounce coming in. And then where was my resistance line? It was right here. I had pinpointed a key support right through this area right here, right to this low. And what was 509? Right there. And so again, what's so cool about this, right, is if we go back to that 10-minute chart, pre-market, what did we hit? Look at that, right to that 509 line, and it got rejected. Now, again, we'll have to see during market hours, does it retest? A lot of times it'll retest. Maybe it even breaks. If it breaks, there are upper levels that we'll have to start looking at. But right now, that is the key level to watch. NASDAQ 100, much the same. Huge move up on the NASDAQ 100. I have a trend line on the daily chart of this as well, which is where I probably, honestly, I'll probably even pick up some put options on the NASDAQ 100. I did this before the last dip. This was privy to the Apex Elite Investing Society, which is like, that's the top level. I mean, that's those people get like the higher risk trades that I'm taking on the side. I did an options trade on the Qs, made about 50K on that trade. It was a beautiful trade. But the idea being is that I am interested again at getting involved here on the Qs basis, but it has to get up to my target zone. What's my target zone? Basically, we know that we had this was your uptrend. Uptrend broke, but then we went into this sideways distribution phase, which again, remember on the NASDAQ 100 in 2021 when the markets topped, it did the same exact thing. Now, again, I'm a big fan of a retrace to the scene of the crime. I use that term almost daily in these game plans. What it means is that when you break a key level, this channel, you drop, and then oftentimes you come back to that level before your next leg to the downside. It's weird. It's like a criminal coming back to the scene of the crime just to see what was going on after the crime, to see how everything's going. It's kind of the same weird thing there. But the point being is that for me to pick up some puts on the Qs, I probably need to see around the 434 to 435 level hit. Now, if we look at the pre-market, did we get close to that? And the answer is not really yet. So the highest point we got today was basically right up here at around 430.65. So there's still a little upside. Now, we do have Amazon earnings tomorrow, not next week, I should say, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday. Hopefully we don't get any earnings out over the weekend. There's too much action for us on the weekends. We need a little downtime. But the key being, again, is next week we have Amazon, we have Google. Nope, check that. We have Apple and Amazon. Let me get that right. You can tell it's Friday. But those will be the key movers for the NASDAQ. If those come out good, then maybe that's the catalyst that takes us up. The other thing is we have the Federal Reserve FOMC decision next week. So Jerome Powell is going to be giving a press conference. And you guys know, every press conference, every decision, I'm going to do a live here. By the way, last live, I did a live day trade up here. And you guys saw me making money by trading the SPY there. I'm going to do it again. I don't guarantee profits, though. Remember, just like any trader, I lose sometimes, but nonetheless, you'll be able to watch me. That'll be, I believe, next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll go live around 1:50. I'm hoping Dr. B steps in with me as well. We'll do an awesome live analysis as the Fed decision comes out and the press conference comes out there. Okay. So going on to a couple of the charts, we already talked about Google. Very curious about what Google's doing here. So far, still trading around 174.47. You can see, again, with Google, just pre-market, it had this crazy move, and then really what's happened, it's gone to sleep. It's gotten in this really, really tiny range. Now, if you break, this is what I'm going to watch, and I'll be watching this on the day trading side, right? So you see this little range right here, this little tight range, and I'll even zoom in on it so you guys can see it a little bit more clearly here. And then I'm going to actually have to redraw it because, all right, there we go. Let's bring this out here. All right, so here's your little range right here. So basically, during market hours, if we break below this, which is about 173.50 to 173, that's where I think you're vulnerable for a retrace to 165. If you can take out this upside level here, which is around 176, then you actually could test the upper range up here. But again, let's watch to see which way this goes during market hours. Next up, let's take a quick look here at Microsoft. Microsoft, again, the earnings were good. This is the problem with Microsoft, is that their valuation is so expensive now. And I know they're a behemoth. I know they're one of the most popular companies out there. But now they're trading at like a forward PE of 35. And their growth is good. And their numbers are amazing. And it's one of the best stocks out there. But it's getting a little bit expensive. And again, any sort of blip, and they had a good earnings report, and so it justified a little bit of a move up. but any sort of blip in the coming weeks or months, and this stock is very vulnerable to more downside. The other thing to recognize here is that the stock at this point is trading just under $413. If we go to this, where's 413, right? 413 is right around here, and you can see that we're not even back to the previous all-time highs. So even on these great earnings, and you know, you turn on again CNBC and the mainstream media, oh, these earnings were amazing, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, but it's not even able to get back to the all-time highs, which is sending me a signal to be wary that this stock may be due for a rollover. Now, again, I'm not talking about a rollover today. I will show you my level where I would consider pulling the trigger on a short. Very obvious level here. Look at this high right here. Draw a trend line right through. And basically, you can see here is that what we have is this would be what I would consider a retrace to the scene of the crime, this low. See how all these, you kind of broke above, you came back in, you went up, you came back in here. Lots of chop, almost like the QQQ of what the Qs were doing. But right here in this zone, I would say anything between 418 and 420, that would be a level of major resistance right here. And that could be an interesting entry as a swing short position. All right, now again, the beautiful thing about this, if you want to game it out in this game plan, you can also use, and this is what I may do, is if I decide to take an extra trade here on the Microsoft, you just use any confirmation above the all-time high as your stop, which limits you to about a $10 to $15 worst case loss, which, by the way, that's not even, that's like 2%. 2%, 2.5% on the stock. So you can really, if you really want to maneuver, you can maneuver and safely do it with a minimal risk opportunity situation there. All right, guys, lots of things to discuss, and I'm just going to continue to go through. I did want to just quickly look at Snapchat here. Snapchat in the pre-market, big move up, trading at $14.30. Yesterday closed around $11.50. Is there a trade here? Not for me at this point. I mean, it's a big move, but the problem is you have a big gap, and the gap is bigger than the move. So for me, there's a couple things to watch. So number one, these lows. This low and this low coordinate, and if we draw a trend line across, it's around $15. So 15 may be a level. It's an aggressive level, but really this would be your level up here. I mean, at least on a swing basis, if you fill that gap up there, that's a level. That's all the way at 17. So right now we're at 1430. Maybe aggressive day traders somewhere around 15 Pierce, a little bit of a short. But aside from that, there's nothing much else to be had. All right, what I want to do now, we want to do our drawing real quick here, guys. So I want to do our drawing. Remember that the winner today wins a 1 month of the Apex Live day trading room. And again, that will be, you just have to contact Lawton at Verified Investing. He'll get you all set up. And then we'll do a spin of the wheel. Remember, the last 3 Fridays, it's been the Winning Trader Series. Let's see what happens on that if it's the Winning Trader Series again. All right, the winner here today, Napster0082. Wow, this person's as old as me, because you had to be about this old. I was in college and, you know, maybe even high school when Napster was around. So there you go. Napster0082. Very cool. Congratulations, buddy. Reach out to Lawton at verifiedinvesting.com. All right, next up, guys, let's focus here. Let's do our quick wheel spin. Then we're going to get into commodities like Bitcoin. Let's find out what the winner is for be drawing for Monday. All right, there we go, guys. That's awesome. TradingView, a 1-year subscription to the premium TradingView right here. And again, that is a very cool prize. Remember, if you're the winner on Monday, you reach out to Lawton at Verified Investing. And before I forget, I'm going to give you the question right now on a Friday, because with my brain on a Friday, it's already fried. Let's talk about it. All right, so yesterday we talked about who was going to have a better report. Was it going to be Microsoft or Google? I think we know the answer to that. It was Google. Google ultimately is going to blow away Microsoft. It's already, Google, by the way, is up 11 to 12%. So that's a very, very good move. Today's question is going to be this, is that if you had one thing that you could pick to change about the game plan, post it below. I'm probably asking for trouble by asking this, but nonetheless, I want to improve. And so if I see someone and some comments and it makes sense, we're always open to changing, and I appreciate that from you guys. All right, follow me over here. Let's get into Bitcoin. Let's see what we got on Bitcoin here. So the number one thing on Bitcoin is it's still stuck in the range. So lucky for me, I don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this chart. Just to give you the quick updates that we all know, we have resistance right here. We have support here. We're now down ticking a little bit. Which way does it go? We're going to find out here. But ultimately, as a trader, you have to know when to freak out. And when I say freak out, I don't mean freak out, but basically like when does it matter and when does it not? And I try to impress upon this because I noticed that every up move, like you get a little bit of an uptick like this and the bulls are like, yeah, here we go, biggest breakout ever, right? And then it comes down and the bears are like, yeah, here we go. And it's like, dude, just chill. Like it's just stuck in a range. All you're doing is making your adrenaline and your endorphins and everything go crazy for no reason. Let the chart dictate it to us. And this is why I hope each and every one of you eventually takes the Winning Trader series, because I do believe it changes what's up here and focuses you and shows you people that learn the methodology. It changes their mindset. It literally changes their mindset to the ability to not get caught up in the emotion. You start to learn to trust the charts. And that's all you have to do here. Charts are charts. It is what it is. Doesn't have to me, is there a bias here? Slight negative bias. The only reason it's slightly negative, and when I talk like negative, it's like 53% negative to 47% positive, right? It's basically 50-50. The only reason I say slightly negative is because you do have a little bit of a bearish pattern there. But again, all that matters is this area here. Confirm below that, now you're talking bigger down move to 52K. If it breaks the upside, then the bear flag, in spirit of bear flag, fails, and it goes to the all-time highs. Simple as that. One chart I wanted to just quickly go over, Solana real quick here. Next week we'll do Ethereum on Monday. I'll try to make Ethereum my Monday chart unless it's moving. But the one thing I wanted to go over here is you do see Solana getting a little weak here. And the same kind of deal here is you do have a little bit of a bearish pattern on the charts, right? We have this down move here. And so, yes, there's a ton of support here between 120 and 130. Massive support. But just be aware, this is not, usually, honestly, I would have expected Solana to go up here. In fact, that's where I was going to look to short it. If it got up to there, I was going to pull the trigger on a short. We bought it, so we were short up here. We got out of the short, right? Then we went long. I took the quick gains right up here for almost 20%. And then I was saying, all right, well, if it goes up here, I'm going to short it. Hasn't gone there yet. Now, we've seen Bitcoin go up to that level, its resistance level. We've seen a few others, but a lot of the altcoins are not doing that. They're staying weaker than Bitcoin, and just something to keep an eye on there. All right, gold's chart here. Gold is inching up a little bit today. Again, to me, do I get crazy like, oh, here goes the next bull run on gold? No, I don't. Why? Because simply put, we have a topping tail that is still intact, so I respect that. That's the dominance right there. And we still have potentially a bearish pattern here on it as well. So again, my angle until proven otherwise, what would prove me otherwise? A break above that line with confirmation. But it's as long as this is here and you have this as your dominant, neutral to negative bias until it hits. Really what I'm looking for is 2200. 2200 right here, this flat kind of shelf area, that's your zone right there where I'll start accumulating at that point. Okay? Silver, kind of the same thing. Nice little uptick in silver today, very small. But again, nothing to change here. Topping tail, big drop, in spirit of bearish flag. You still have a slight negative bias there. And then oil, again, oil's a great example, guys. I love these type of examples because it shows that even I'm susceptible to price action. And so what I mean by that is that, when we were up here, I was saying, all right, guys, a retrace to the scene of the crime, this should send price to the upside. And then as we kept on hammering this line, I'm like, even in these game plans, I was like, wow, maybe it's going to break. And then ultimately it's like, no, price, trust the charts. Let's just freaking shut the brain off, turn the brain off, and just trust the charts. And then what does oil do? It goes right back up like it should, like probabilities were dictating. So again, just a good example of how even I fall into these little situations of kind of questioning, and then the chart's like, nope, we're going to do what the chart should do, and that's what it is. Natural gas continues to befuddle a little bit. Really was hoping for confirmation here, but it's now down ticking. Still in a zone where I still think you get a move up, especially with overall commodities strong. But again, nonetheless, we'll have to see. The only thing you're watching here is this level down around 180, 185. I'd like to see that level hold. Assuming it does, I still favor upside on natural gas. Natural gas, again, considering what oil's done, natural gas is lagging by a mile. It may take till later in the summer where you start pricing in a cold winter, where this will really start to take off and break even above this area. But right now, it's been lagging, and that's why I continue to like it. Even though I understand there's a lot of supply out there, but still, I still think overall commodities are moving up. Eventually, natural gas catches that momentum and rips to the upside. All right. On that note, guys, I got to get to the trading floor. We're going to be trading our key Microsoft, Snapchat, you name it, the Apex Live Day Trading Room. Come check it out. You can even get a day pass at there if you want to just come in. Basically, all the trades, I would say 99% of the trades are in the first hour and a half. That's when the great action is. We've had no losers this week. It's been a great one. Dr. B, I know, can hear me. We're going to be so careful today because I want to have an all-winning week. And again, I hope you come check us out at verifiedinvesting.com. Take care, guys.